Jazzcast Pros.
A tobacco executive was asked, do they smoke tobacco? By one of the actors or someone who's on the set, they're filming commercials. And the tobacco executive said, we don't smoke it. We reserve that right for the young, the black, the poor, and the stupid. One of the things that we're doing on Saturday, June 24th, is having a menthol funeral, whereas folks who do attend, that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be celebrating our liberation from menthol tobacco. We're going to be sending messages to big tobacco in terms of taking a stand that, these are our thoughts. These are our feelings about you targeting our community, about targeting our youth.
Thank you for joining Igniting Hope Radio. And I am actually standing in, and I know this is a hard pair of shoes to even stand in, for Pastor George Nicholas. I am Ebony White from the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. And here I serve as the Community Health Engagement Manager. And I work with a host of partners in our community. And I'm just always delighted when I get to be in the company of my friends. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to all of you my very good friend and colleague, Mr. Stan, the man, Martin of Ciccatelli and Associates, the Buffalo director and lead trainer. Hi, Stan. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ebony. How about yourself? How's things going?
I'm doing pretty good. Share with our listeners, what is your personal mission?
That's a deep question. Thank you, Ebony. And to our listeners and those who are viewing us, don't adjust your set. I'm not Dr. West. This is Stan the Man Martin coming to you live. But no, I appreciate the question. My personal mission, Ebony, really is to be the best person that I can be. The best son, the best father, the best friend, be the best person that I can be each and every day. And if I can, do that, I feel as though I left this world a better place. So that's my personal mission.
Listen, that should be all of our mission, right? But if that is not your mission, maybe there are some pieces about Stan's mission you want to adopt. And you know what? Along the way, over these past, how long have we been working together? Past 3 years or so?
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer, but more closely in our partnership around with Reach Buffalo, which you'll learn a little bit more, which is a project of Ciccatelli and Associates. I think I've adopted some. And, when you have really good friends and you build that camaraderie amongst against with each other, you get this. Sometimes you can exchange some really good things. And it kind of really helps you along the way to adapt and create your very own mission. So let's talk about your organization that you work for, Ciccatelli and Associates.
Well, Ciccatelli and Associates, or CAI, short, our mission really is to utilize the transformative power of education and research to help foster, a more aware, healthy, compassionate, equitable world. And, that really speaks, I think, to our partnership with the Buffalo Center of Health Equity, and also the work that you and I do, alongside each other and with the community. So, that's our organizational mission. And it was actually founded, CAI was actually founded 40 years ago, believe it or not, almost 40 years ago, by Barbara Ciccatelli. Our headquarters is in New York City. We have offices, all across the globe. And also we do a lot of work, internationally, hence the name Global. So we really try and work with those marginalized communities, those who have been left behind and in some cases underserved, to really reach back and bring others forward with us, So everything that we do, we, take the approach of really engaging the community in an authentic, genuine, transparent manner.
That was a mouthful, right? But when you think about the richness of the work and how robust it is and how you have to be very well connected and you have to really understand the social context. What is the Tobacco-Free Coalition?
The Tobacco-Free Erie, Niagara Coalition is funded by the New York State Bureau of Tobacco Control. We provide services in both Erie and Niagara County to help prevent the initiation of tobacco use, to reduce exposure to secondhand smoke, to also, raise awareness about the intentional target marketing, which I hope we get into, of tobacco products, in particular, flavoring or menthol tobacco, amongst communities that have been, marginalized or underserved, and also really to promote tobacco cessation, provide assistance with those who want to quit tobacco use with the resources and the tools necessary to do so. We recognize that tobacco is an addiction and it's hard to quit. Our approach, we're not against those who use tobacco. We're not against those who smoke or chew or vape or utilize hookahs. However, we are, and we do counter market the advertising and marketing techniques of big tobacco, other tobacco industry. So that's our approach. And that's really how we really try to go about doing our day-to-day work, our business.
What has the history been in regards to the tobacco industry?
That's a powerful question, because when you think about the history of tobacco and the target marketing, I would say, well, I've been involved with tobacco control for over 20 years. That's when I had waves. Those who are listening or our viewers. Yeah, you can get seasick on my wage. I know the story. But anyway, that's another show. So, but after World War II, when many of the soldiers, came home and, they actually provided tobacco products to soldiers when they were in the military, just to show you how far back it goes. However, when you look at the history of target marketing, in particular with the Black community, in the early 50s, I'm going to say, the early 1950s, the prevalence of African Americans who smoke or utilize menthol or tobacco was roughly around 5%. Then fast forward to the late 60s or what have you, due to the targeted marketing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, it almost tripled, to like 14%, almost 15%. And then in the 1970s, the tobacco industry started co-opting, our culture, and we saw, the prevalence of tobacco use among African Americans triple again to roughly around 42%. Fast forward to where we are today, the late 80s and 2000s, the prevalence of tobacco use of those who smoke menthol tobacco is 85%. Killing, between 40 to 45,000 African Americans or those who identify with the Black diaspora annually. And this target marketing that I mentioned, if I could just add a little bit more, they looked at and duped and, bamboozled and hoodwinked, our athletes, our entertainers, our civil organizations, those who are designed or whose mission is to protect us, and to serve us. They co-opted our culture, including, hip hop and music and what have you, to really kind of like make it socially acceptable, to change social norms. So when I ask people, when I do this work, can you imagine a menthol free or tobacco free community? Can you imagine a world without tobacco addiction? It's hard to imagine. Most people say. Some people would say it's even impossible. So the tobacco industry has intentionally targeted and marketed a product when used as intended will kill you. Menthol is the flavor that attracts and addicts, that makes it easier to start, I should say, and harder to quit. So, that's the history of tobacco. As one of my mentors, I would say Dr. Gardner for the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. That's the African Americanization of menthol in the Black community.
The optics that we seen and I grew up with was, I didn't know that it was harmful. It was normal. And it was something glamorous about this habit that we didn't know that there would be a very unglamorous demise to our community as a whole. It was attached to marketing, and they made smoking look healthy. I don't know if many people remember like Cool. They were always in the sun and they were feeling really good. And that is not the true optic of smoking. That's not real.
Right.
It's not real.
Right.
And they played with our optics and we didn't know. But here we are in a place where we do know. And you kind of gave a time stamp between like the 1950s till today. So you all have this tag team. And I want you to kind of share with us what the tag team does. And these are the lessons learned and how important us today, what we can do in addressing big tobacco. And along with the drivers, what are some of the social drivers that still creates this normalcy of tobacco use?
As I mentioned earlier, we come alongside, the community. Nothing for the community without the community, and our Tobacco Action Group members are individuals from the community that have either themselves be impacted by tobacco, or have a family member or a loved one, who've been impacted by tobacco use, and say, they basically have taken a stand and say, what, I'm not gonna go for this anymore. They say that, I have to empower and share this information and knowledge, with others to build their self-efficacy, to raise up the community, because we know that information alone doesn't change behavior. However, at the same time, Tobacco Action Group members, they not only focus on individual change and help promote access to tobacco, cessation services, including proactive counseling, they also seek to change the environment, the community. When you look at policies, when you look at systems, those social norms, that I talked about earlier, they're working in spaces where they live, where they work, where they play, and sometimes even pray. So we know that the messenger is just as important, as the message. And when you talk about, drivers, let's be real, let's be honest, Buffalo in our country, but let's focus Buffalo in particular. We've been experiencing, a lot of trauma, of late. All right. And we know that, some people utilize tobacco as a coping mechanism to deal with the stressors. That's a fact. So when we talk about changing the environment, not just the individual change, how can we create access to other points that intersect, whether it's food and nutrition, okay, or whether it's, physical activity. And also, believe it or not, improving those relationships with healthcare providers, those clinical providers, so that there's no wrong door, no missed opportunity. Whereas though we're identifying those who utilize tobacco, we're addressing the correlated risk factors or diseases such as diabetes, COPD, and other chronic illnesses and diseases, because tobacco affects every part of your body, and there are so many correlated diseases that you cannot just isolate one in particular and work in a silo. You can't do that. You have to look at different points to intersect and cross-pollinate the information as much as possible. And at the same time, once again, not just the in terms of the drivers, not just stress, you are continuously bombarded with messages from the tobacco industry that has normalized the use of tobacco products, intentionally making it cheaper, making it accessible, easily accessible. Think about Lucy cigarettes. Think about flavored cigarettes or flavored tobacco. They're working on products right now that's going to be a game changer in terms of, look at vaping or electronic cigarettes, to give you an example. The electronic cigarettes came out to undermine all of the advances that we made in tobacco. Remember, people used to be able to smoke in bars. You used to be able to smoke in a restaurant. Now you walk into a bar, you walk into a restaurant, or even you see someone on the airplane, they're about to light up a smoke. You look at them like they're crazy, or,
right,
like
right.
what planet have you been on?
We don't do that.
Right. That's how we're changing the game. That's how we're changing attitudes and perceptions, whereas though it's the community that's demanding the change. It's the community that are leading the charge against, the effort of the tobacco industry. We say we might not be able to match their dollars, but they can't match our resolve. I've been in this fight for over 20 years, and I've seen a lot of advances. And I think right now we're at a tipping point, a tipping forward, that if we can remove menthol from the shelves, or menthol tobacco from the city and from the county, city of Buffalo and Erie County, then we join, the efforts of other places like California and Massachusetts and, Canada, where this has been done before, and that lives have been saved. And we're saving the next generation. We're preventing the next generation of replacement smokers, which is our children.
Right. I appreciate that, your approach and all of the work your tag team and many others in this space is that it's just not looking at the diagnosis, but the symptoms, right? The drivers, like what's driving this, and being compassionate about it. Many times, and everything else, you kind of hit with, you did it, you were wrong, and we told you not to do it, and here are the outcomes, and deal with it. So there's this empathy that is an exchange. And I've had the opportunity to work with many of your members of the tag team. So if someone is a smoker, no, I'm not mad at you. You don't have to run off. We can still talk. I'm normalizing. I understand those kids are causing you all kind of havoc. That job is wearing you out. And this was the coping strategy that in some ways many of us inherited, right? You inherited these behaviors. You inherited this is your coping mechanism, but you're also giving them something in exchange. I think last year when it was like Smoke-Free Sunday, the exchange was giving spearmint gum. Someone thought like, gum? But I'm giving you something in exchange for the try. And often when I hear them talk about, just see if you can go a smoke-free hour, a smoke-free few days, and then build up in supporting them. And even if they slip back, you celebrate their desire to change and participate and really support them in that change. So that's phenomenal. And that's the key thing with doing anything when you're trying to not correct, but support. Not scold, but really help and be there for that days where like, I'm really trying not to, but let's talk. And just having an ear or the New York State Quit line and them being able to talk to someone and all of the other services that are available. But you talked about the tag teams relationship. Is there a personal connection for you?
Whew. Ebony, I met my passion and my purpose. And this is a part of my passion, and this is a part of my purpose. 20 years ago, and I said this, 20 years ago, I was like others. I said, what's the big deal with tobacco? What's the big deal with smoking? Like, you know what I mean? I don't get it. And then as I pursued and done research, and I was actually, pursuing a position of employment that someone thought I would be, a good candidate for. And I was going through the interview process. I said, well, let me find out more about this. Let me just read up on it. You know how we do. We were about to join a new company. Fast forward, I done some research and I came across this document, which is available to the community. It's a master settlement agreement. And it has all with the 46 or 48 tobacco attorney general sued the tobacco industry. Okay, and won. And as a result of the settlement, all of their documents became available. But I came across this one quote, and I kid you not, I might paraphrase a little bit. However, a tobacco executive was asked, do they smoke tobacco? By one of the actors or someone who's on the set, they were filming commercials. And the tobacco executive said, we don't smoke it. We reserve that right for the young, the black, the poor, and the stupid. And when I read that quote, I was floored. And I thought about the people, my family members, my friends, my loved ones, even those I didn't know that didn't even have this information. I felt as though I found my call to action. I found my passion. I found my purpose. And it was very important for me to move forward in a very intentional way. I think about those who aren't even aware of how someone looked at us or looks at us and preyed upon us intentionally. And since then, I've been involved in a number of initiatives. However, this is to my core.
You sit back, the older folks would say the gall, for someone to think that of me. They invested in the depreciation of an entire community, the quality of our lives, the longevity of our lives is mind-boggling. And you wonder, do they know? And your work just really is stemmed around, I need you to know. I need you to know this was their forethought about this entire industry. They didn't create this. They didn't want this because they knew you were stressed. They wanted to give you a way to, relax your mind. They did it with the intention to destroy you.
And part of the original sin, enslavement, whereas though we used to have to pick it, tobacco, those who were enslaved. Now, all right, they want us to smoke it, to keep us enslaved and addicted. Whereas though they're profiting, they're putting profit over public health, over our health intentionally. So, I'm trying to break those chains.
And you are.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Ra. Yes, I am the host of Father Torch. I would like to take this time to invite you in my discussions on very, very important topics of being a Black and brown father in today's society. Being a parent, the other parent, we face trials and tribulations too. We have worries, we have feelings. Here at Father Torch, we promote the advocacy of being the dad you wish you had. Join me at fathertorch.com.
So I want to give you the opportunity to talk about the Menthol funeral. Where did you say this is the concept right here? And everyone, if you have the opportunity to be there, he'll give you the details. You'll also find them on the website to be there and learn and participate in this. Stan, take it away.
Yes, definitely. We, my team and I, the Tobacco Free Erie Niagara team, we went to the National Tobacco Conference about a year or so ago, and we was down in New Orleans on Bourbon Street. Nah, just kidding, but we were down on New Orleans and Bourbon Street. But this is where we first learned, though, where the city of Detroit had held a menthol funeral, and I think New Orleans did one as well. And the concept surrounding the menthol funeral is to raise awareness about how menthol has been intentionally marketed and targeted to, African Americans and those identified with the Black diaspora. However, it's a celebration. It's a liberation. It goes back to what I just said about breaking the chains, of addiction. So one of the things that we're doing on Saturday, June 24th, is having a menthol funeral, whereas folks who do attend, that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be celebrating our liberation from menthol tobacco. We're going to be sending messages to big tobacco in terms of taking a stand that, these are our thoughts. These are our feelings about how, we want to express ourselves about you targeting our community, about targeting our youth. Youth are going to be in attendance as well, sending messages to the big tobacco. In addition to that, we're going to have an opportunity for those who want to send words of expression to those family members that they have lost as a result of tobacco use. And believe it or not, we have support where we're going to have a casket where those messages and cigarette butts and other tobacco paraphernalia can be tossed in to the casket as a symbol of breaking the chain, as a symbol of ending, the menthol pandemic, that has been intentionally placed upon our community. Following the wake, we're going to have a eulogy. We're going to have a eulogy in terms of the celebration, in terms of upliftment of that liberation. In addition, Pastor Nicholas, he's going to eulogize, the ceremony. So there's going to be music, there's going to be really a celebratory moment where and including spoken word, of aspirations that we're not allowing ourselves to be viewed as victims. We're not placing shame and blame, on ourselves or pointing fingers at one another. We are, however, taking a stand against the tobacco industry and taking back, our lives. Either it's for an hour, or for a minute, for a day, for a week, and also celebrating those who have decided to take the menthol challenge, to quit or to make a quit attempt. We're going to be honoring them and recognizing them at the menthol funeral and encouraging them and supporting them during and afterwards. So there will be information for nicotine replacement therapy, plain and simple, for gum, for lozenges, or for patches, and proactive counseling, as well. We're going to be promoting a New York State Smokers Quit line, which is 1-866-697-8487 quits, 1-866-697-8487. 697-8487. That is the number to call, 1-866-NY quits. So come on out. Once again, it's a celebration. It's a liberation, of us in terms of taking back our freedom and breaking the chains of tobacco addiction in particular.
So if you live locally in the city of Buffalo, wherever you are, wherever you're listening, I want this to be annual. I want our districts, our block clubs to contact you. And if we need to do this over and over again, whether it's quarterly, let's do this and understand that as much as we love one another, this is done in love, right? To not just preserve ourselves, but we have a saying, we do it for ourselves, we're doing it for our family, and we're doing it for our community. The same thing applies. And, in our family that we may not never see. We want to give them some better air to breathe. We want to give them the longevity. We want them to have the long lives and live out glorious lives. And that's important. So if you're interested, everybody knows Stan the Man Martin. You can find his information on Chickatelli and Associates page, www.cai.global.com, and you can find him and many of the other REACH initiatives. So before we close out, it's always a pleasure, Stan.
Yes.
As meeting the newbie jumping in with Pastor George in his absence. But we never fail at Buffalo Center for Health Equity and Igniting Hope overall to give our community members what they need to know, because we're invested in this work and we're invested in our community. Any final thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, well, I just want to read. First, I want to thank you and the Buffalo Center for Health Equity, for this opportunity, for your partnership, and for all that you do, within the community, in terms of raising not just awareness, but really being, a part of the change, in terms of promoting health and wealth. And just once again, I would just encourage folks. I don't think I mentioned the Menthol funeral is going to take place at the Millennium Hotel on Saturday, June 24th from 10 to 12. Come on out. We would love to see you, love for you to be a part of the celebration of the liberation, and bring a friend. Once again, we're not against those who utilize tobacco. We've encouraged those who even opposed us to come out and attend, because as you said, this is out of love, and when you look at the reach hand, it's an open hand, not a closed fist. So that said, I thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to when we have this conversation again.
Thank you, Stan. And again, thank you to Igniting Hope listeners. Until next time, do it in love.